I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. The kind where your life flips upside down and you're left wondering if you've been living in a parallel universe. But here I am, sitting at my desk, sharing how my wife Melissa shattered everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and our so-called happy marriage. First, let me say this. I've always considered myself a pretty grounded guy. I run a successful e-commerce business, something I built from scratch with late nights, caffeine-fueled coding marathons, and the kind of determination that eats at your sanity. Melissa? She's been my rock for the past 10 years. She works for her parents at their boutique bridal atelier, handling the marketing and social media. If you've ever seen those Instagram-worthy wedding dress reels, that's her magic. We're both 35, and for a decade, we've been the definition of stable, or so I thought. We put off having kids because we wanted to hit a certain level of financial security first, and we did. I finally felt like we were there. The business was thriving, Melissa's career was steady, and I had this vision of us starting a family, building a future. It felt like the perfect time. Funny how life has a way of gut-punching you right when you think you've got it all figured out. Melissa and I never had major trust issues. Sure, every couple argues now and then, but we were solid. Or so I believed. Then she mentioned a girl's trip to Vegas. Now let me paint you a picture. Melissa's not exactly the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas type. She's more the kind of person who schedules her day down to the minute and takes a million photos of her morning coffee for Instagram. So, when she told me she'd be heading to Sin City with her friends, including Jessica, I wasn't exactly thrilled. Jessica. Just hearing her name makes me grind my teeth. She's the kind of person who treats every interaction like it's a networking opportunity and thinks fun means burning through your credit card on overpriced cocktails. I've never liked her, but I trusted Melissa. I figured she deserved the break after the crazy work month she'd had. So I told her to go, have fun, and not worry about me. I'd stay home, finish a big project for a client, and hold down the fort. The first couple of days were uneventful. Melissa sent me the usual updates, pictures of neon lights, artsy shots of cocktails, group selfies with her friends. I'd text back something sweet, maybe throw in a cheesy miss you line. All normal. But by day 3 the text stopped. No cute selfies, no random check-ins, just radio silence. I started to get this gnawing feeling in my gut. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just caught up in the fun. But as the hours dragged on and she didn't respond to my messages, I couldn't shake the unease. By midnight, I was pacing the living room, phone in hand, trying to convince myself that her phone had probably just died. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. That's when I called her. The first time, it rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. I tried again. Same result. By the third attempt, I was officially spiraling. Then, on the fourth call, she finally picked up. Except it wasn't the response I expected. "Yeah, I'll be right back," Melissa's voice said. Not to me, but to someone else. My breath caught in my throat. For a second, I thought she'd realized I was on the line. But no, she hadn't even noticed she'd answered. Her voice came through again, faint but unmistakable. God, Nick's been calling nonstop. It's so annoying. And then a man's voice, smooth, confident, too familiar for comfort. Just ignore him. He'll get over it. Now where were we? My heart pounded as I fumbled to put my phone on speaker and hit record. Melissa's laughter echoed through the line. "Yeah, you're right. Let's grab another drink and then we can head back to my room. I could use a real distraction tonight." I didn't need to hear anything else. My hand shook as I ended the call and stared at my phone, the recording sitting there like a ticking time bomb. For a moment, I was frozen. Then my mind kicked into overdrive. I didn't just want answers. I wanted justice. When Melissa called me back half an hour later, her voice was syrupy sweet, like nothing had happened. "Hey babe, sorry I missed your calls. The signal's been terrible. We're just at this little club, having cocktails and dancing. It's so loud in here." "Oh, no worries," I said, my voice steady, my rage tucked neatly behind a mask of nonchalance. Just wanted to check in. Glad you're having fun. She bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. But me? I was already planning my next move. When Melissa walked through the door, I plastered on a smile, hiding the storm raging inside me. She looked relaxed, her suitcase in one hand and a shopping bag in the other. "Hey, babe," she chirped, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek as if nothing had happened. "Miss me?" "Of course," I replied, masking my emotions like a pro. "How was the trip?" "Oh, it was great," she said, her tone light and breezy. "Exactly what I needed. Vegas was amazing." She rattled off some vague highlights, a show, a spa day, a little gambling, but nothing that gave away the truth I already knew. Later that evening, Melissa left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to take a shower. This was my chance. Heart pounding, I grabbed it and slipped into the garage for privacy. Her passcode was easy. She hadn't changed it in years. The first name I searched for was Dylan, and there it was. Their conversation was like a slap in the face. Texts full of winking emojis, flirty banter, and one message that made my stomach churn. "Last night in Vegas was unforgettable. Can't wait for round 2. Melissa's response: "Haha, you're so bad. Let's not text about this. I'll call you tomorrow." I scrolled further, feeling like I was falling into a dark hole. There were photos too, intimate ones. Melissa posed in lingerie I didn't recognize, standing in front of a hotel mirror. In the background, Dylan lounged on the bed, shirtless, looking every bit the smug 27-year-old athlete model type. My hands shook as I opened the videos. One showed Melissa laughing while recording a table covered in champagne glasses and rose petals. Dylan's hand appeared, pulling her into the frame for a kiss. But the final gut punch was her chat with Jessica. Jessica wasn't just aware of the affair, she was actively encouraging it. Messages like, "You deserve this, girl. Nick's a good guy, but life's too short not to have fun." I copied everything, the texts, the photos, the videos, onto my phone. Then I carefully deleted any sign of my snooping and placed the phone back exactly where I'd found it. When Melissa came out of the shower, I casually handed her the phone. "Hey, you left this on the counter," I said, my voice perfectly neutral. "Oh, thanks, babe," she replied, completely unaware. As she got ready for bed, I sat on the couch, planning my next move. The evidence I had was damning, but this was only the beginning. The next morning, after Melissa left for work, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. The evidence was all there, every damning piece of it saved and organized. I knew what I had to do, but I also knew I couldn't rush. I needed a plan, and more importantly, I needed help. That's when I called Logan. Logan has been my best friend since college. He's sharp, loyal, and, lucky for me, an exceptional divorce attorney. If there was anyone who could guide me through this mess, it was him. When I explained everything, including the Vegas fiasco and the mountain of evidence I'd collected, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Nick," Logan finally said, his voice calm but firm, "you're sitting on a gold mine of proof. If this plays out right, you'll walk away with almost everything. But you need to handle this carefully. No confrontations, no slip-ups. Follow my lead." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "What do I need to do?" "First," Logan said, "we're going to prepare the divorce papers. Infidelity is a big deal in this state, and with your evidence, we can use it to tip things in your favor. But timing is everything. You can't serve her until everything else is in place." "Everything else?" I asked. Logan sighed. "Bank accounts, shared assets, the house. Secure what you can, and document anything unusual. If she's been spending money on this guy, that's leverage. The courts won't look kindly on her using marital funds to bankroll her affair." His words lit a fire under me. Over the next few days, I followed his advice to the letter. I checked our bank accounts again and took screenshots of every suspicious charge. Hotel suites, fancy dinners, boutique purchases. I even found a payment to a high-end watch shop, which must have been for Dylan. It was like peeling back layers of betrayal, each one worse than the last. Meanwhile, Logan got to work on the legal side. He drafted the divorce papers and walked me through what to expect. Once she's served, Things will move fast, he warned. Be ready for her to get defensive, maybe even aggressive. But with what we have, she doesn't stand a chance. His confidence was reassuring, but I wasn't ready to stop there. I didn't just want a legal victory. I wanted Melissa to feel the weight of what she'd done. That's when I got the idea for the birthday party. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. I spent the next few days meticulously gathering every piece of evidence I could find. While Melissa prattled on about her day at dinner, I nodded and smiled, all the while thinking about the bombshell I was preparing to drop. Every detail mattered. Logan's words echoed in my head. Timing is everything. One evening, as Melissa scrolled through her phone on the couch, I casually brought up the idea. Hey, you know my birthday's coming up, I said, keeping my tone light. She barely looked up. It is. Do you want to do something special? Yeah, I said, leaning back like it had just occurred to me. How about a party? Something simple, just family and close friends. We haven't done anything big in a while. Melissa finally glanced at me, her brow lifting in surprise. A party? That's not really your thing. Maybe not, but it's been a rough year. I think it'd be nice to have everyone together. You know, celebrate. Her hesitation was brief, and then she smiled. All right, I'll help you plan it. It could be fun. Oh, it'll definitely be memorable, I said, letting a small, knowing smile slip. She didn't notice. She was already typing away on her phone, probably texting Jessica. Over the next week, the preparations came together. Melissa threw herself into organizing food, drinks, and decorations, oblivious to the real reason I wanted everyone there. On the surface, everything seemed perfect, just a loving wife planning her husband's birthday party. But I was counting down the days until the truth came crashing down around her. Logan and I fine-tuned the plan. You've got one shot to make this stick, he reminded me. The evidence needs to hit like a sledgehammer. Don't hold back. I won't, I promised. The day of the party arrived, and the atmosphere was perfect. Clear skies, a slight breeze, the smell of barbecue in the air. Melissa was in her element, flitting between guests with a radiant smile, offering drinks and making small talk. Watching her, you'd never guess the storm brewing beneath the surface. As the evening wore on, I let everyone enjoy themselves, waiting for the perfect moment. Finally, I clinked my glass to get everyone's attention. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began, my voice steady. It's great to celebrate with family and friends, but tonight's not just about my birthday. It's about honesty, trust, and revelations. Melissa's smile froze on her face. She shot me a nervous glance, but I didn't stop. I've prepared something special, I said, picking up the remote for the outdoor screen. A little presentation. With a click, the screen lit up, and the first image appeared. Melissa, wrapped around Dylan in a Vegas hotel room. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Nick, what the hell is this? Melissa stammered, her voice shaking. Oh, don't worry, I replied coldly. This is just the beginning. I hit play. The next slide showed her lounging in lingerie I'd never seen before, with Dylan grinning smugly in the background. A video followed, Melissa laughing as she recorded a champagne-filled table before being pulled into the frame for a kiss. Nick, stop this right now, she screamed, rushing toward me, but Logan stepped forward, blocking her path. I think everyone deserves to see the truth, Melissa, I said, my tone icy. You had no problem flaunting it in Vegas. Her parents' faces turned pale as the videos played on. Her father finally broke the silence. Melissa, is this real? Tell me this isn't what it looks like. She didn't respond. She just stood there, frozen in place as the evidence piled up. This is ridiculous, her mother Carol snapped. Nick, you have no right to humiliate her like this. This is cruel. Cruel? I shot back, my voice rising. You're defending her? After everything she's done? After she spent our money on gifts and hotel rooms for her boy toy? Melissa's made mistakes, but this is between you two, her mother argued, her voice trembling with desperation. Publicly shaming her like this is... Enough! Logan's voice cut through the chaos. Nick isn't the one who destroyed this marriage. She did that herself. The tension in the yard was suffocating. My family looked at Melissa in shock and disgust. My friends exchanged muttered whispers, their disbelief plain on their faces. Melissa, now in tears, tried to plead. "Nick, please, let's talk about this. Privately. This isn't fair." "Oh, now you want to talk?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You had plenty of chances, Melissa, but you chose lies. You chose betrayal." Unable to bear the judgmental stares, Melissa turned to her parents. "We're leaving," she choked out, grabbing her purse. Her father nodded grimly, avoiding eye contact with anyone as they made their way toward the door. "Wait," I called out, stepping forward with Logan at my side. "Before you go, there's one more thing." Logan handed me an envelope which I extended toward Melissa. "Happy birthday to me," I said, smirking. "Divorce papers." Her hand trembled as she took the envelope, her face crumbling in despair. Without another word, she turned and fled, her parents trailing behind her. As the gate closed behind them, the yard fell silent. Slowly, my friends and family began to gather around me, their words a mix of sympathy and encouragement. But all I felt was a strange, bittersweet relief. The weight I'd been carrying for weeks was finally gone. The morning after the party, I didn't waste any time. Melissa had gone to her parents' house the previous night, probably to cry on her mother's shoulder and spin her version of events. That suited me just fine. It gave me the space I needed to take the next step. By mid-morning, I was outside, methodically emptying the house of everything that belonged to her. Clothes, shoes, jewelry, it all went into garbage bags. I dragged them out to the front lawn one by one, dumping them in a growing pile for the world to see. It was oddly therapeutic, like I was finally reclaiming my space, piece by piece. I was halfway through tossing out her bathroom essentials when a car screeched to a halt in front of the house. Melissa stormed out, her face a mix of rage and disbelief. "Nick, what the hell are you doing?" I didn't even look up. "What does it look like? Clearing out the trash." Her jaw dropped. "You're unbelievable. You can't just throw my stuff out here like this." "Why not?" I said, finally meeting her eyes. "You're not living here anymore. Thought I'd save you the trouble of packing." She marched up to the pile, her voice rising. "You're acting like a psychopath. Do you have any idea how petty this makes you look?" I shrugged. "Call it petty if you want. I call it closure." Melissa's mother, Carol, stepped out of the car, looking horrified. "Nick, this is completely uncalled for. We need to sit down and talk about this like adults." I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Oh, I think we've talked enough, don't you? You defended her last night, remember? So now she's your responsibility. Take her things and go." Melissa's face turned crimson. "I'm not going anywhere until we sort this out." "You already did your sorting, Melissa," I snapped. "When you decided to cheat, when you spent our money on another man, this isn't a negotiation. You're done here." Her father, Robert, joined the scene, his expression stern but subdued. "Nick, let's not make this worse than it already is." "Worse?" I repeated, incredulous. "The worst part of this ended when I caught her in the act. This? This is just cleanup." Melissa's tears started up again, but I wasn't moved. She turned to her parents, desperate. "Can we please just go inside and talk? I'll fix this, I swear." But I shook my head. "No, Melissa, you don't get to fix anything. You've already burned it all down." Carol grabbed Melissa's arm, pulling her toward the car. "Come on, sweetie, let's go. We'll figure this out later." As they loaded the bags into the trunk, Melissa shot me one last venomous glare. "You'll regret this, Nick." "Doubt it," I said, crossing my arms. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal battles. The courtroom was packed. On one side, my family and a few close friends sat quietly, offering silent support. On the other, Melissa sat with her parents, her posture stiff, her face pale but defiant. Her lawyer, a slick guy in an overpriced suit, looked confident. Too confident. I sat beside Logan, who was calm and collected as always. If Melissa thought this was going to be her redemption arc, she had no idea what was coming. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and an air of no-nonsense authority, banged her gavel. "Let's proceed." Melissa's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, my client, Melissa, acknowledges that mistakes were made during the marriage. However, we intend to prove that the financial expenditures in question were from her personal funds and not marital assets. Logan didn't even flinch. He waited until it was his turn, then rose with deliberate composure. Your Honor, we will prove beyond any doubt that the funds Melissa claims were hers were, in fact, marital assets. Funds earned primarily by my client, Nick, during their 10-year marriage. Melissa squirmed in her seat. Logan wasted no time calling Melissa to the stand. She walked up, her heels clicking against the floor, and sat down, avoiding my gaze. The bailiff swore her in, and Logan began. Mrs. Daniels, well, soon-to-be ex-Mrs. Daniels, Logan started, his tone polite but laced with an edge. Can you explain to the court how you funded your recent expenses in Las Vegas? Melissa straightened, trying to maintain her composure. I used my own money. Your own money, Logan repeated, pacing slowly. Can you clarify where this money came from? I earn a salary working for my parents' business, she said, her voice shaky but defiant. I used that. Logan nodded. You do earn a salary. Statistical average, correct? About $85,000 a year? Yes, she replied, her tone clipped. And yet, Logan continued, picking up a document, bank statements show expenditures during your trip totaling over $15,000. This includes a luxury hotel suite, high-end boutique purchases, and even a $5,000 cash withdrawal. Tell me, Mrs. Daniels, how does someone earning $85,000 a year afford to spend so much in one trip? Melissa opened her mouth, then closed it again, flustered. I had savings. Ah, savings, Logan said, flipping through the papers. Your Honor, if I may direct your attention to Exhibit C, bank account records from the past year. As we can see, Mrs. Daniels' personal account had a balance of just $4,000 before this trip. The rest of the funds came from a joint account shared with my client. The judge raised an eyebrow, glancing at the documents. Mrs. Daniels, is this accurate? Melissa's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, this account was shared, meaning Mrs. Daniels had equal access and rights to these funds. Equal access, yes, Logan agreed smoothly. But let's not forget the source of those funds. My client, Nick Daniels, earned 6 figures annually through his e-commerce business. The majority of the money in that account was contributed by him. Melissa's face turned crimson. I still had a right to use it, she blurted out. It's not like I stole it. We were married. Married, Logan repeated, leaning in. So, you're saying it's acceptable to use your husband's hard-earned money to fund gifts and luxury experiences for another man? The courtroom fell silent. Melissa's lawyer attempted to regain control. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained, the judge said, but her sharp gaze didn't leave Melissa. Answer the question, Mrs. Daniels. Melissa's voice cracked. I didn't think he'd find out. I was unhappy, okay? Nick was always working and I needed something for myself. Something for yourself, Logan echoed, his voice ice cold. You mean Dylan? Her silence was deafening. Logan turned to the judge. Your Honor, we've established that Mrs. Daniels used marital funds for her affair. Now let's address the other damages. Exhibit D, texts and photos exchanged between Mrs. Daniels and her lover. These images were taken in a suite at the Bellagio, paid for entirely from the joint account. Melissa's lawyer scrambled. Your Honor, these photos are irrelevant. Overruled, the judge said firmly, her gaze hardening as she glanced at the exhibits. By the end of the hearing, Melissa's defense had crumbled. The evidence was airtight. Her arguments about her money were shredded under Logan's relentless questioning, and her attempts to justify her actions only made her look worse. The judge leaned forward, addressing Melissa directly. Mrs. Daniels, marital funds are meant to benefit the marriage. Your use of these funds for an extramarital affair constitutes financial misconduct. This court finds in favor of Mr. Daniels. He is awarded the marital home, the majority of shared assets, and a significant portion of the savings account. Melissa's face crumpled, and for the first time, she looked genuinely defeated. Her parents, sitting behind her, exchanged stunned glances, but said nothing. As the gavel fell, signaling the end of the case, Logan leaned over and whispered, "Congratulations, you just won your life back." After the divorce was finalized, it felt like I could finally breathe again. The weight of Melissa's betrayal, the courtroom drama, and all the emotional turmoil, it was behind me. Now it was time to move forward. The first thing I did was sell the house. I didn't want to live in a space filled with so many memories of her. Every corner reminded me of the life we had, or rather, the life I thought we had. I found a smaller place, nothing fancy, but it was mine. A fresh start. The process of moving was surprisingly therapeutic. I left behind most of the furniture Melissa and I had picked out together and started over. The new house was cozy, with a little backyard where I could sit with my morning coffee and listen to the birds. It wasn't flashy, but it felt like peace. A few months later, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. We ran into each other, literally, at a coffee shop. I'd spilled my drink all over her notebook, and while I scrambled to apologize and clean up the mess, she laughed and told me it was fine. There was something about her smile, genuine, warm, free of pretense. It caught me off guard. Rachel and I started talking. She wasn't like Melissa, and that was the best part. She wasn't obsessed with appearances or trying to impress anyone. She loved simple things, reading in the park, exploring new hiking trails, trying out hole-in-the-wall diners. We took things slow, though. I wasn't in a rush to jump into anything serious, and she respected that. Our time together was easy. We'd sit on my back porch, watching the sunset, sipping wine, and talking about everything and nothing. It felt good to be around someone who didn't make life feel like a performance. For the first time in years, I could just be myself. Meanwhile, Melissa's life took a turn, though not the one she'd probably planned. After the divorce, she tried to move in with Dylan. He'd promised her a life of excitement and passion, but as soon as he realized she wasn't bringing any money to the table, his enthusiasm fizzled out. Apparently, being a 27-year-old model doesn't pay the bills, and he wasn't interested in footing hers. From what I heard through mutual friends, Dylan ghosted her a few weeks after the divorce. No dramatic breakup, no explanation, he just disappeared. Melissa was left scrambling. Her parents let her move back in, but their patience wore thin quickly. Her dad reportedly told her, "You made this mess, now you clean it up." As for Jessica, she stuck around, at least on the surface. She posted supportive comments on Melissa's social media, invited her out occasionally, and played the part of a good friend. But everyone could see the cracks. Jessica secretly relished Melissa's fall from grace. She'd always been jealous of Melissa's life, and now that it was in shambles, she didn't bother hiding her smug satisfaction. As for me, life wasn't perfect, but it was good. Better than good, actually. I'd learned a lot from everything I'd been through, about trust, about resilience, and most importantly, about myself. Rachel and I kept things casual, enjoying the simple joys of life. We went on weekend road trips, tried new recipes that usually ended in disaster, and spent lazy Sunday mornings doing crossword puzzles. She made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years, and I didn't feel the need to rush into labels or plans. For now, it was enough to just be. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, she asked, "Do you ever think about what happened with Melissa?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But not in the way I used to. I don't feel angry anymore. It's more like relief. Like I dodged a bullet." Rachel smiled, her hand resting lightly on mine. "Well, for what it's worth, I think you handled it pretty well." I laughed. It didn't feel that way at the time, but yeah, I guess I came out of it okay. And I had. Life wasn't the grand, picture-perfect vision I'd once imagined, but it was mine. I'd rebuilt it from the ground up, and for the first time in a long time, I was truly happy. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.